Hey, friends! I'm Jesse Fisco.
And I'm Ambry Fisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are. You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Ambry here. Today we are going to talk about going all in on yourself. It is so important now more than ever to go all in, and we're going to explain why and ways you can go all in. Let's get started.
It's going to be a great episode today. I'm excited about this one.
I'm super excited about this one too.
This is something that I think can challenge our models of the world, specifically past experiences. And so we're going to talk a lot about how to overcome, when you are, I guess specifically something I'm excited to touch on is when you're trying to create or do something new and you're experiencing maybe feedback that is causing you to almost shift away from what you're trying to do, and why that happens. And, a lot of times it is because we're living based on past experiences rather than what we're actually designing for the future. So
yeah, or we're living in a negative state or unresourceful state, right? So
exactly.
So today's episode, obviously, we're going to talk about becoming and betting and going all in on yourself. This episode is about you. Okay, this is,
and this is something Jesse and I have done day
over
in, day out,
over and over again. Yes,
I feel there's been several very interesting and pivotal points in our life and business where we had to decide: are we pulling back, or are we literally going all in and, going for it?
Yeah. In fact, we're even experiencing this now.
Currently,
this never changes, but you develop mental strength and toughness to really look at the situation the way it is and just go do it.
And it's especially something that we experience if, you're like us, if you are a type of person that is constantly seeking more, right. And I guess looking to get out of your comfort zone and to do something new and different. And so with that comes many opportunities to decide, are you going all in or not?
Right. And this is what's cool about this idea, and the things we're going to talk about today is simple fact, you can be wanting more in many different areas. We all want more in different areas of our lives, right? Whether that is in our physical health, whether that's our physical appearance, whether that's in our business, our relationship, our being a mom or dad, it doesn't matter. We all want more. So when we're talking about going all in on yourself, this episode is going to resonate with everyone differently.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear how it resonates with you. And we'd invite you to share it, of course. And, leave us an honest review if this makes sense and this really hits you. And so
this is a pretty cool raw episode for us because Jesse mentioned, we're currently experiencing some pivotal changes in our life and business right now, just based on new things that we are
exploring
and new endeavors that we have, created, invested a lot of time and money and energy into. And yeah, it's exciting. So
absolutely,
let's start off talking about what can it look like when you are feeling almost stuck or at a halt because you're not choosing to bet on yourself and go all in. What kind of feedback, emotional states, or maybe even frustration comes with that? In your opinion? I
think we talked about this when we were going with the Lamborghini, right? We were sitting there and I just remember being extremely frustrated because it was there was no momentum going anywhere because I was so focused on this one concept. Mm-hmm. Everything else stopped. Time stopped in essence. And nothing else was moving or progressing because I had to make this decision. We had to make this decision together. And so I think that happens, right? You actually stagnate your business and your business or whatever it is becomes very, very stagnant or plateaus because you're so focused on this one idea or concept, but then you keep having these parts of you that maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should.
And
right?
to expound on that, I think that exact thing happens a lot of times when we know what it is that we want. We've created a plan. We've created data and information and experiences around it. Like we know what we want. However, we're still at a halt and we're still not actually going all in. You're doing all the steps, you're creating a plan, you've invested maybe even time and money, but then you reach this point where you're like, oh crap, this actually is getting real.
Right.
This is I either am going all in or not.
Right.
And because a lot of times we have experiences in the past that are different or maybe challenge what we're currently doing now and what we're progressing towards in our future, because past experiences might challenge that, all of a sudden it becomes uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And your mind and your body and your emotions start to, kind of give you some friction and resistance against what it is that you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And so then once again, that's where this crossroads is of am I going all in? Am I betting on myself or not?
Right. I think of it I remember going on stage for the very first time to give a presentation. And I remember leading up to it, everything was fine. I was prepared. I mentally, all the works, right? Everything you could do to prepare. The minute you sit on that stage, everything changes. And you're like, oh man. And it doesn't matter if it's one person in the room or if there's 3,000 people in the room. It does not matter. Those feelings will still continue to be the same. And that's, the same thing with reality, kind of like what you're talking about is you can prepare and talk and plan and strategize, and then reality comes knocking on your door. And at that moment, if you're mentally tough, the decision's easy. If you're not, and you're lacking in that mentality, it may take you some time. Yeah. And then that time is your biggest nemesis because you're not able to progress and move forward.
Yeah.
And then you start to analyze. And the interesting part about all that is think of all the work you've done beforehand.
Right.
To prepare up to this moment.
It's either going to go down the garbage disposal or it's going to shine.
Right. Right. And all this thought and all this energy and time, as successful entrepreneurs, we can tell you time is the most valuable thing. Mm-hmm. It is insanely valuable. And you could have all the money in the world, but if you have no time, nothing,
the time and resources and desire to do something.
Right. I mean, that's why CFOs and CEOs hire people, is because they want more time. And so that's the biggest thing is with this, you've used all of this time creating and thinking, and you've used all this energy to this momentum, and then that momentum's right there in front of your face. And then naturally you should just be yeah, this is the next step. We got to do this. But some, and maybe you, allow the external environments and the things that are happening in that very moment to now deviate and change your course and your path. And at the end of the day, then what?
Yeah.
Now you're wasting more time trying to decide whether or not you're going to do the thing that you spent all this time thinking about you were going to do.
I think a way it's been explained to us before is think of your comfort zone as a circle. And, you do everything that you, within your resources and within your creation to, if you're creating something new, you do everything you can within that comfort zone. Sometimes even pushing it a little bit or being oh, okay, I'm actually going to invest in this. I'm going to do this. But, likely along this journey, you hit a point where you are on the edge of that. Think if you're inside of this circle, that's your comfort zone. Well, you hit the edge of that circle. Imagine being inside a balloon and you're pressed right up against the edge of that balloon. Right. And it's am I going to back off and allow this balloon to stay,
intact,
intact and beautiful? Or am I going to push a little farther and just absolutely burst and break beyond that comfort zone? And that is where the growth happens. All of a sudden you're not stuck inside this balloon. You're possibilities are endless, but it can be very challenging. And sometimes physically feels scary to just push that a little farther and burst that balloon.
I love that. And I think of a cheetah in the cage.
Yeah.
Right? We all know cheetahs can go 60 miles per hour running. They can go freaking fast. You put a cheetah in a cage, yeah, right. It's not going to happen, right? And you can open up the cage a little bit more and make it bigger and bigger in radius or diameter, or whatever the case. And that cheetah will run a little bit faster and a little bit faster, but it is not until you open up the cage that the cheetah can go to its max strength.
I love that because one of our friends posted on Facebook today something, and hopefully like I can remember the gist of it and do it justice. But basically it was like something like if you put a shark in a fish tank, it will only grow 8 inches. Like it will grow 8 inches and it will, live its life in this fish tank. It's not going to outgrow that environment.
Yeah.
Whereas you take that same shark and put it in the ocean and it will grow to be, a
megalodon.
80 feet or whatever, like 8 feet long. I don't know. Let's say 8 feet. So like 8 inches versus 8 feet, right? Like because of its environment.
Yes.
So like putting a shark in a fish tank, like it physically will not outgrow that environment because it's not, it doesn't make sense. It's not safe. It's not, that shark can't thrive or even like physically be an 8-foot shark in that little like 2-foot fish tank.
You know what I love about that too? Is you're still a shark, but now you're an 8-inch shark and no one's taking you serious. So in your mind, you're like, I'm a freaking shark. I am like the biggest fish, the biggest predator in the freaking ocean.
I'm scary.
And
Watch
I'm
out.
8 inches big. Right? So like then there's those parts of you, right? You see an 8-inch shark, you just flick it with your finger, get the heck out of here, right? 8-foot shark, that's a whole different mindset.
Might bite off your finger, but can't touch your head.
Right.
So
I love that.
You take that shark though, and you put it in the ocean in this like vast, limitless environment. All of a sudden, the shark can grow to its full potential of, let's say, an 8-foot shark, and its like capability, its confidence, its there's no limit.
Right.
It can do what it was meant to do, and live the way it was intended to, and fulfill all of the possibilities and purpose that it is meant to.
We should name this episode, What Size Shark Are You?
What the shark?
What the shark? But you know this. You know this. And that's what I want to hit home right now, is at some point, you've got to just bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. You could continue to tell yourself, I want to be a entrepreneur. I want to be successful. I want to run my own business. And you can tell yourself that till you're blue in the face. But it isn't until you say, forget this W-2 job, that nothing starts to happen.
Yeah.
You could have the entire business plan, but until you
Or
commit.
forget the fear mindset of like past experience, or just like, and past experience could even be like not your own. It could be your parents, your grandparents. It could, there's like all kinds of possibilities there. But like going back to the shark analogy really quick though, like if you have only known this little like 2-foot fish tank, right? Like you may not even know that you have the capability of growing another like, 7+ feet, right? Like you're this little 8-inch shark. Like you have no idea.
Right.
You feel like it's a good life. It's safe. It's, comfortable. You have everything you think you need, but you probably know like there could be more, and you're curious about it. You want it. You might even research it. You might even figure out how you could get to the ocean.
Right.
But there becomes that moment when it's like, okay, I could actually do it. I could get to the ocean and I could grow and I could thrive. I could test the limits. All these things.
Yeah.
But then you actually have to decide to do it. And that can seem a little bit daunting because it's like, if all you've known is this fish tank, all of a sudden imagining jumping into this like vast ocean of possibilities and like endless, opportunities and whatever, like it is like, holy cow, am I capable? Am I prepared? And that's when you have to like dig deep and convince yourself, yes, you are capable. Yes, you're prepared. You've done all the research. You've created all of the, idea, experience, and data around it. Yeah. So like jump in the ocean.
And I think it reminds me of that story in the Bible. I'm going to botch it. I'll be honest. I need to go back and refresh my Bible. But the lady that turned around and looked back and then turned into salt or dust. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're told, do not look back. Just don't look back. You're leaving. Do not look back. And she looks back and she turns into dust. And I can't remember the whole story behind that, but man, how impactful is that?
Turned to salt or something?
Turned to salt, turned to dust, something. For those that are
It's Lot's wife.
Lot's wife.
Back.
There we go.
And turned into a pillar of salt. Yeah.
Pillar of salt. And that's the thing is you cannot look back anymore. It's right there. You will turn into a pillar of salt. You'll literally wither away. You won't grow.
Yeah.
Because if you leave that environment and then you go back, you've now established bigger handcuffs, bigger chains to keep you in that environment. You have to push yourself through it. You have to break through. And you know this, once again, but what the heck is holding you back at this point? Because it could be a decision, it could be an external environment, but let me be the first to tell you, the external environment does not matter because you know what you're wanting. Right. You know what you're working towards. And what happened in the past doesn't matter because that's the past. The future holds endless opportunities to those that are looking for endless opportunities.
Yeah. And I think those like future endless opportunities are so appealing and desired by so many, right? Like, however, there comes a point when it's like, I'm going to go back to the shark. Okay. I'm going to do it.
Just the shark.
So like this shark, right, goes to the ocean, or even before it goes to the ocean, it's like, okay, I've done all this research. This is possible. This makes sense. Even they might know, like, I can do this. However, currently they're comfortable. Like they enjoy their life. They know there's more. They want it. Yeah. But they're like, in the back of their mind, they know once I take that step, once I enter the ocean, once I grow, once I thrive, you can never go back to that fish tank. Like when you go from being an 8-inch shark to an 8-foot shark, you can't go back to that 2-foot fish tank. Like it's not possible. So I think like psychologically there's this idea or notion that like, I can't come back to this. Even though you want to abandon and grow and do more, there's still like this, like, you're letting yourself go. I'm leaving my current environment behind. And like, I say that lightly because like there's, obviously so many things that about our environment and about who we are that won't change. You can remain the same like wonderful person and have the same beautiful qualities, whether you're in that fish tank or in the ocean. So there are things that are constant and that won't change. And that's what's so beautiful about, creating ourselves, and you get to decide what does and what does not change. However, like, you can't ever go back to that specific environment of the fish tank. Yeah. And you don't even want to, but I think that once again, it goes back to like that pushing out of that barrier. Like you have to let go and believe in yourself, bet on yourself and say like, you know what? I can do this. 100%.
I'm going to change it just a little bit too, because this is something that I experienced recently is, we all go through these things, right? Like we all have, when we're pushing mental boundaries and we're pushing the limits, there is fear that comes. Fear is natural emotional state. So if anyone's like, oh, you got to be fearless, like forget that. You got to be courageous. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Fearless. Like you're telling me I can't feel fear. I got to be fearless. Yeah, right.
You're going to feel the fear. Then what do you do?
Right. You got to be courageous. And so here's the deal. And I remember this conversation. You and I were talking actually, and there was this thought of like, oh, well, the external environment is showing that we're not going to make as much money as we projected. But we know that we have X and Y and maybe even Z that we've put on our plan of things we need to do in order to get to the next chapter of life. Right. And I remember having this conversation and you and I going, okay, sure, if things all stayed the same, nothing changed, then yes, we would lose money.
Like we're screwed.
We're screwed. Yeah. But then
if nothing changed and there was no like additional efforts and resources and designing,
we're done. We're done. Yeah. And money's gone, right? That would go for just about anyone. But then we look at it and say, what are the X and Y and Z that we're trying?
Considering.
Yeah. What are we not considering? And what are we trying to do with this money? Right. And we looked at it and we're like, holy crap, these two things right here that we are putting money in, this isn't just like some joyride. This isn't just some like, heck yeah, mega cruise. No, this is things that we've planned to build our future more and our business. And so we look at that,
And if
it's
we're
like,
discrediting that, we're not believing in it.
Right.
It's not gonna happen because we're like kind of just like, oh, maybe.
Right.
If that were to work out.
and it got to that point where you and I both looked at each other and we were like, okay, yes, and in the external environment, if all things stayed the same, yes, we'd be screwed. But these two things here add to our business, and we are resourceful. And because we are resourceful, we don't have to worry about losing money because we're resourceful. Granted, it's sitting right here on our plan, right? It's right in front of us, and we're like, oh yeah, these are two very resourceful things that will make us more money. Okay, well, then it came down to, okay, yes, if we were unresourceful people, then yes, we would lose all the money in the current environment that we're in. Yeah. But we are not unresourceful people. We're very resourceful. Therefore, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then
we're going to go all in.
We just went all in. We bet against ourselves again. And that's the thing is like, how great is that? Because some of you are at your job, W-2'd, love the security, listen to this podcast. Oh, Jesse, Ambry, this would be amazing if I could just have the guts to do this. And you know what's so funny about it is you're actually risking more by being at that W-2 job because when the economy goes down, guess who's losing it? You. You're losing it. You're getting laid off. And you provide mental security for yourself saying, oh, but I'm the best employee. I've been employee of the month 12 times and I get all these bonuses. Well, guess what? No one cares. When money's not being made, no one cares. Because the people
that savage.
And that's the thing, is like, it's the cold hard reality. And so you sit here and tell me like, oh, well, I've got this job and it's very secure. Secure according to what? Because if you lost $100,000 for your business that month and there was $500,000 in payroll that need to be paid, guess who's not getting paid? Like, that's just economics.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, on that note, like if that job is what you truly want, then what are you doing different or outside of that to create security or to really create like, you know, what you want? Like maybe there's something that you are doing on the side, even though you love your, you know, typical job or whatever that is, or what are you doing within that job to truly like set yourself apart and to be, you know, but at the end of the day, you're right. I mean, there's only so much security when you're not the one.
If you're not the one at the helm of the ship, you have a high likelihood of someone else sinking the ship that you're on.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And I want to be very blunt and very, very direct. If you're not in control of your life right now, you better be looking for ways to get in control because it is going to get bumpy. And it is going to get very, very interesting for those that are not in control, that allow other people to control them. And that is the cold, hard reality. And you will lose money if you allow other people to be in control of your money.
Yeah.
I mean, the stock market's my favorite thing to consider is, oh, hey, you know, I'm not resourceful, so I'm going to go put all of my money in this 401k and trust people that have a track record of resourcefulness. And all it takes is that one person that you don't even know, who's the CEO of the company, to just go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to, you know, embezzle a bunch of money and screw all the shareholders, and I'll go to prison maybe if I get caught.
Hopefully that would never happen, right? That's just like a hypothetical thing.
But you're willing to trust someone that you don't even know.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't invest money in 401k and like invest money in the stock market. It's just consider the idea that like the trust you're putting there, like why do you put so much trust there that you're not in turn giving to yourself?
Right. I mean,
diversify, invest, like do that, but consider like the trust that you are placing in other people and in someone else. What would happen if you also turned around and gave the same trust and confidence to yourself? What could you do?
You'd be walking in a room feeling like the best thing in the world, right? And isn't that what you're wanting anyways? Don't you want to go home and look at your spouse and go, man, I am an absolute baller. You are lucky to be married to me, and I'm lucky to be married to you because we are ballers. We take control of our life. My
favorite days are when Jesse like comes home like in the morning or lunch or whatever it is, and he's like, "I'm a problem. I'm a freaking problem." Yeah. And I just start laughing. I'm like, "Oh, great!"
But that's the thing.
But it's so awesome because like those are the days when you're like, "I'm on fire. I am like firing on all cylinders. Like I am a legit problem for my environment. Like I'm challenging everything.
And that's the thing is,
It's so funny.
most people though, maybe you, go to a W-2 job and you don't feel that fire or the full capability. Maybe you don't feel the full capability as a husband or a wife. Maybe you don't feel it as a father or a mother. You can have that fire, but you've got to take control. You've got to take control. Stop allowing other people to control you in exchange for money, in exchange for time. You've got to be your own master. You've got to serve what you want. You've got to go after the things that you need, because the external environment will provide you with so many different things that you consider wanting, right? But let's be honest. I'm looking over here in our podcast studio and I see an old bike that we bought because the Peloton came out and everyone was like, oh, you got to get a Peloton. Well, we weren't ready for the Peloton, so we bought this bike. This bike has been sitting down here for a year, 2, maybe. Hasn't been ridden.
It's a decent stationary bike, but it got used maybe a handful of times during like 2020 COVID.
Sure, but at the end of the day, like the external environment told everyone they needed some sort of bike at home. Therefore, we followed it. But now we look at it and go, we don't need this bike. That's the external environment. We know what we need.
Still takes up space in our house.
Yeah, and it still takes up space. And that is what we want to hit home. At what point are you going to allow yourself to just go in and do it? And say, I'm going to be in control of myself.
Defy the odds or whatever you want to call it. Like, and challenge your own like beliefs and quote unquote comfort zone. Because like, once again, I think we've said this in the past, but like what even is a comfort zone? Like, what is it? Does it exist? Is it created just by you and your own mind, like, and your past experiences? So like, what happens when you challenge it? It changes.
It changes.
It's forced to change. Your environment, your belief is forced to shift with your decisions and the things that you're doing. So
let me ask you a question just real quick. I know we're getting towards the end of the episode here, but if I was to throw you as the listener a payment of $3,000, you had no choice. You had a payment of $3,000. You had to pay it. And you could not afford it. But this was like, you had to make this payment or bad things would happen, right? Don't you think you'd start becoming more resourceful and figuring it out?
Likely,
right? And the thing is it goes back with your business. It goes back with you, like in anything you want to do. If the pain is bad enough, you'll be resourceful. If the want is bad enough, you'll be resourceful. But wouldn't you rather be resourceful going after the things you want than going after the pain that's been caused?
Yeah.
And that's where I get heated up in these podcast episodes because I see so much potential. I know you as a listener, you're making good money, but you feel like there's a lack in your life. You feel like there is something that you're not getting. And the things you think you want, are not really the things that make you happy. And the reason why is because you don't internally understand what you truly want that motivates you. Or you're not doing the things you know inside you need to do because you have mental blockages and mental limitations that you could easily break through. That's why this podcast was designed.
Yeah. And it can be easy.
And it can be easy.
To believe that.
It will be easy as soon as you give yourself permission to win.
Yeah. As
soon as you give yourself the permission.
Give yourself the trust and credit that you likely give to other people.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm going to get a little crazy here, but if a gun was pointed at your head and someone said, listen, you need to come up with this. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. You need to come up with this or you die. I guarantee you're not just going to let them pull the trigger.
Your mind and body all of a sudden are like, all right, what do we do to make this happen?
What do we do? But the thing is if you're mentally weak, and I'm going strong here, Ambry, like I'm ready. I'm looking right at it. If you are mentally weak, you will think of all the reasons why you can't do it and you will be dead.
It's true.
If you are mentally tough, you will get there, you'll breathe through it, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
so that you can survive.
And that's why emotional states are so important, right? Like
Yep.
we've done an episode like a couple months ago about emotional states, and that's why they're so important, because the emotional state that you put yourself in when you are in a situation like that, where you are making a huge decision that, could make or break your financial situation, whatever it is, like in those circumstances, what is your emotional state? Because if it's not a resourceful one, you're absolutely right. Like you're going down.
You're going down.
It's not going to be the outcome that you would want. And so if you are able to put yourself in a resourceful state, like you would want that. You would want the outcome that will come in that, in that situation, in that mindset. So
100%.
Like when we talk about being resourceful, like a lot of that has to do with your emotional state and where you're allowing your mindset and your headspace to be.
Yep.
So
100%.
Good stuff.
I feel like I'm like,
I know.
I'm like breathing over here because I just bring the pain.
Don't allow yourself to live based on past experiences and past, failures or successes, because your future is and can be different in what you want. And so if you're making all the decisions that you make based on what happened last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 generations ago, if that's how you're basing your decisions, well, you're going to get the same results that happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 5 generations ago, whatever. You're not going to break through that comfort barrier. You won't.
Right.
And if that's what if what you want is to break through that barrier, then start making decisions based off of right now and based off of the future that you want and that you're creating.
And who you're trying to become.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, we all have this purpose on this earth to create and to create, to show ourselves, to prove ourselves that we can become like God. And that's what our purpose is. And when you feel like you're plateaued or you're unhappy, it's because you're not doing the things deep down inside are purposeful.
Right.
And
learn from the past and move forward.
Move forward.
Move on. Go.
Yes. It is easier to go through the challenges and the feedback than it is to go around it and kind of outskirt it, or to not go through it at all. It is easier to go through no matter how interesting the feedback is, for lack of a better word. Sometimes it is very interesting and it will challenge the very core of who you are, but that core will stay dominant and that core will get through it. And right there, you can do it. And I know it. So with that being said, we'll end the episode here, I think.
Yeah. Bet on yourself. Be the shark that jumps out of the fish tank.
Get out of the fish tank. Get in the ocean because you're a freaking shark.
That's right.
You're not a puffer
Be
fish.
the shark you were born to be.
You are a
You're
shark.
not a puffer fish.
I'm gonna get a big photo of a shark in my office. I think that's that story. Thank you for sharing that. That's
great.
You blew me away. I haven't heard that one. So
it's a good one.
It's a good one.
We can make an image of like a shark in an ocean staring at a shark in a fish tank. Like
yes,
whatever.
Yes, absolutely. Anyways. And I think more than anything, we just appreciate you listening to this show. You are important to us. And we have created this show for you.
Thanks for being part of this purpose, because it means everything to us. And if you feel inclined, we'd love to
get an honest
review. A 5-star review from you. Yeah, an honest or 5-star review, just to keep this platform growing. And thanks so much for being here. Look forward to more awesome conversation next week.